Hola! Today we are going to learn about el pretérito perfecto. Today we are going to learn that in Spanish there are three tenses that express actions in the past. So far we have learned the simple past, which is called pretérito simple, the imperfect, and today we will learn about el pretérito perfecto. Let's take a look at this new tense. El pretérito perfecto in Spanish is the corresponding tense of what we call the present perfect in English. So it is used to indicate what someone has done or what events have taken place. Let's see some examples. I have been to Spain several times. In this case, I'm not saying when I went exactly, but I want to emphasize how many times, several times, I have been there. Marta has finished her homework. I have worked at WD for 15 years. So this is a good example too of an event that began in the past and continues in the present. So I still work at WD. That's why I use the present perfect in English. I have worked. In English, there are two parts to the conjugation of the present perfect. So when I say I have been to Spain several times, I have a combination of the verb to have, a form of have, plus what we call the past participle. Well, in Spanish we do the same thing. In Spanish, to form the pretérito perfecto, we use the helping auxiliary verb haber and a past participle. Notice that the verb haber in this tense has the same meaning of to have, tener, but it's not used for possessions. It acts as an auxiliary verb to express done actions, not to express having or possessing things. Let's see the conjugation. He, has, ha, hemos, habéis, han. Examples en español. ¿Has comprado la torta para la fiesta de cumpleaños? Have you bought the cake for the birthday party? Sí, y también he preparado las tapas. ¿Qué han hecho ustedes hoy? Hemos trabajado mucho. As I said before, el pretérito perfecto is a combination of a form of the verb haber and a past participle. But what is a past participle? Well, in English, for most verbs, the past participle is formed by adding ed or d to the end of the root form of a verb. For example, the past participle of jump is jumped, and the past participle of excite is excited. Nevertheless, some verbs don't follow this rule, and they are quite irregular. For example, the verb to be, in the simple past you say was or were, but in the past participle you're going to say been. I have been. To come, in the simple past we say came, but in the past participle is come. To do, we have did, but the past participle done. To eat, ate, eaten. To make, made, made. It's a repetition. To see, saw, seen, etc. Now, what about in Spanish? How do we form the past participle? Well, to form the past participle in Spanish, all you need to do is to drop the AR, ER, and IR ending of the infinitive of a verb. And if it's an AR verb, you're going to add ado. For example, caminar becomes caminado, he caminado, has caminado, etc. It doesn't change, you keep caminado. If it's an ER or an IR verb, you're going to drop the ER in IR, keep the stem, and you're going to add ido. For example, comer, comido. If I say I have eaten pizza 3 times this week. He comido pizza 3 veces esta semana. Pedir, pedido. Just like in English, as we saw before, some participles in Spanish are totally irregular, and you need to memorize them. Let's see some examples. Abrir, to open, abierto. Morir, muerto. Hacer, hecho. Escribir, escrito. Decir, dicho. Poner, puesto. Volver, vuelto. Cubrir, cubierto. Descubrir, descubierto. Ver, visto. Romper, roto. Resolver, resuelto. Satisfacer, satisfecho. Let's see some examples with regular and irregular verbs mixed. He trabajado. I have worked. So trabajar is a regular verb. I just drop my AR and I put ado because it ends in AR. Has comido. Comido is also regular. Drop the ER of comer and put ido. Has salido. Hemos visto. Visto is an irregular verb, comes from the verb ver, so I have to memorize that one. Habéis escrito. Another irregular verb, escribir, so I have to memorize escrito. Han hecho. Another irregular one comes from the verb hacer, so hecho. Some verbs change the spelling in the past participle. These verbs are considered still regular in the participle, but they change the spelling by adding an accent mark. The reason is to mark the stressed syllable. But how do we know if a verb needs an accent mark in the past participle? Very simple. When you drop the ER or IR, and it only happens with ER or IR verbs, and there is a vowel, you need to add an accent mark to ido. Atraer, atraído. Caer, caído. Creer, creído. Leer, leído. Oír, oído. Poseer, poseído. Reír, reído. Sonreír, sonreído. Traer, traído. Let's finalize reviewing the 3 tenses that are related to the past in Spanish. Well, if you can imagine something that was happening in the past, like in a photo, you usually use the imperfect. The imperfect tense will be used. Something like, we always used to walk to school when we were young. Or when you use the past progressive, like, we were always walking to school. That would be imperfect. Now, if you have a specific time, like yesterday, last week, last year, finally, or something sudden that happens, we generally use the simple preterito simple. But when you're talking about something that you have done, or you use words related to the present, like hoy, today, I have done this, or words like I have never done it, or I have already done it, you're going to use el preterito perfecto that we learned today. Finally, a little note. El preterito perfecto is mostly used in Spain. Actually, in Spain, there is a tendency to use el preterito perfecto instead of the simple past, el preterito simple. For example, if you're talking to a friend and you don't understand him or her, in Spain it's very common that people would say, ¿Qué has dicho? Literally saying, what have you said? instead of saying ¿qué dijiste? In Latin America, they would use more el pretérito simple. Well, I hope you understand this lesson. If you have questions, you can ask me in class. Thanks for watching. Gracias.